Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Deepa, for that wonderful and beautiful introduction. Thank you very much. So I'm very grateful to IYS for giving me an opportunity to come here and speak about the glories of the Lord. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. I would like to see all the participants turn on their videos. So if everybody can turn on their videos, it will give me a better way to understand, have a connection with them. So please share your videos if possible. All right. So thank you, IYS, the organizers, for giving me an opportunity to come and speak about the glories of Bhagavad Gita. And I thank each and every one of you for taking out your precious time and coming together and congregating and hearing about Bhagavad Gita as it is. So thank you all very, very much. I am extremely grateful and happy to be a part of this Sangha. So today's verse is 2.7, right? So I'll just take a moment before starting the class. I'll take a moment to remember and to recognize what the last week's class was, very beautifully given by Nandapriya Mataji. And very, very beautifully, she laid the foundation for the Bhagavad Gita. So she very beautifully explained the entire family history, like a very beautiful Kshatriya family, very strong rulers of the world. And she explained the entire history and the entire lineage, and basically we know why we have landed here, and so how the wars began between Kauravas and the Pandavas, and how we have ended up on the battlefield. So right now we were in the battlefield in the last class also, but last class Sanjaya was talking to Dhritarashtra, and to set that mood, Nandapriya Mataji described the entire lineage of the Kauravas and the Pandavas and how we ended up here in this war. So today we are going to hear 2.7, and 2.7 is the turning verse of Bhagavad Gita. It is the first important verse of Bhagavad Gita. It is laying down the foundation of the entire Bhagavad Gita, and it is an extremely, extremely important verse. But before we get into 2.7, I would also, go a little back, and we will see how we landed up in this verse, how Arjuna is landing up in this verse, what he is saying, why he is saying that. Okay, so we will also discuss a little bit about that also. So before moving on to the class, we will recite our Mangalacharan and seek the auspicious blessings of our teachers and our acharyas. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swa Padantikam. Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Uttapakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutare Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Deshatarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramanandamaadavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we will now move into the verse. Before that, we have now seen that Arjuna is right in the middle of the battlefield and everyone is ready to fight. Everyone is preparing, right? The armies are ready, both the armies are ready. And now Arjuna tells Krishna that take me in the middle of the battlefield, right? And I want to see you all have gathered here together to fight with me. So please take me, Krishna, please take me to the middle of the battlefield, and I want to see who have collected together to fight with me. So Arjuna drives the chariot in the middle of the battlefield, and here now Arjuna is seeing right in front of him, he is seeing his relatives, his friends, his uncles, his cousins. He's seeing all of them, excited to fight with him, right? So what happens when he sees this, right? So we will get into these details soon. So would somebody like to recite the verse, or I will recite it once and then maybe somebody can read the translation. Karpanyadoshoapahata swabhava pृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेतः यश्रेयस्या निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधिमां त्वां प्रपन्नम्. Would someone like to read the translation?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, please read the translation.
Translation. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered with you. Please instruct me.
Thank you, Mamta. So does anyone have their Bhagavad Gitas open? Then we can even go through the purport. Does anyone have their Bhagavad Gitas open? Yes, Padmapriya, would you like to read the purport? Nicely loud and clear.
Purport. By nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. In every step there is a perplexity, and therefore it behooves one to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance for executing the purpose of life. All Vedic literatures advise us to approach a bona fide spiritual master to get free from the perplexities of life, which happen without our desires. They are like a forest fire that somehow blazes without being set by anyone. Similarly, the world situation is such that perplexities of life automatically appear without our wanting such confusion. No one wants fire, and yet it takes place, and we became perplexed. The Vedic wisdom therefore advises that in order to solve the perplexities of life and to understand the signs of the solution, one must approach a spiritual master who is in the disciplic succession. A person with a bona fide spiritual master is supposed to know everything. One should not, therefore, remain in material perplexities, but should approach a spiritual master. This is the purport of this verse. Who is the man in the material perplexities? It is he who does not understand the problems of life. In the Arankayaka Upanishad, the perplexed man is described as follows: Yova etat aksharam garge avid avidat vasmal lokat prati sa karpanah. He is a miserly man who does not solve the problems of life as a human and who thus quits this world like the cats and dogs without understanding the signs of self realization. This human form of life is most valuable asset for the living entity who can utilize it for solving the problems of life. Therefore, one who does not utilize this opportunity properly is a miser. One, on the other hand, there is the brahmana or who is intelligent enough to utilize this body to solve all the problems of life. Ya ed aksharam gargi vidit vaslam lokat pratit sa brahmana. The Karpanas or miserly person waste their time in being overly affectionate for family, society, country, etc. In the material conception of life, one is often attached to the family life, namely to wife, children, and other members on the basis of skin disease. The Karpana thinks that he is able to protect his family members from death, or the Karpana thinks that his family or the society can save him from the verge of death. Such family attachment can be found even in the lower animals who take care of children also. Being intelligent, Arjuna could understand that his affection for family members and his wish to protect them from death were the cause of all his perplexities. Although he could understand that his duty to fight was awaiting him, still, on account of miserly weakness, he could not discharge the duties. He is therefore asking Lord Krishna, the supreme spiritual master, to make a definite solution. He offers himself to Krishna as a disciple. He wants to stop friendly talks. Talks between the master and the disciples are serious. And now Arjuna wants to talk very seriously before the recognized spiritual master. Krishna is therefore the original spiritual master for the science of Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna is the first disciple for understanding the Gita. How Arjuna understands Bhagavad Gita is the state in the Gita. It's stated in the Gita itself. And yet, foolish mundane scholars explain that one need not to submit Krishna as a person, but to the unborn within Krishna. There is no difference between Krishna's within and without. And one who has no sense of this understanding is the greatest fool in trying to understand Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you, Padma Priya. So, and thank you to Shri Prabhupada for that wonderful puppet. So now we will decode 2.7. We will see what is this verse all about. So this verse we will now divide into three parts. Okay. So who is Arjuna, and why is it so important for us to know what Arjuna is doing on the battlefield? Okay, understanding Arjuna's condition and how his condition is similar to our condition, and ultimately what did Arjuna do in that condition, right? So we now very well we have been familiarized. Okay, let us empathize with Arjuna's situation. So imagine Arjuna is in the battlefield, and it is no regular battle, huh? It is the world war. It is these Kauravas were the rulers of the world. Okay, so the entire, it's like a world war. The world's population has collected and divided into two sides, Kauravas and the Pandavas, and now they are ready to fight a battalion. Like, we cannot even imagine the strength of the battle. Okay, and Arjuna is no ordinary Kshatriya. So Arjuna is not even world, a renowned Kshatriya of the entire universe. One of the best Kshatriyas in the entire universe. Arjuna was so qualified that he had overcome sleep. So many times Krishna addresses him as Gorakesh, somebody who has conquered sleep. And he was so skilled in his work that he had received benedictions. He was a Kshatriya, so he had received weapons as benediction from Lord Shiva, Lord Indra, all these great demigods. So he had the Pashupa Astra, he had the Rudra Astra, he had the Brahma Astra, and all these were very, very, very scientifically, like it was, Indian military and Vedic military science, like these were atomic weapons, and these weapons would be induced by mantra, and then they would exactly target people that you want to, and if you wanted, by saying mantras, you could bring back those weapons back. So such was the advanced civilization at that time. And Arjuna was like, with one arrow he would, he could bring rain, he could dry up the oceans, he could create land. All that he could do by his archery skills. And he was a very, very dear friend of Krishna. He was a cousin of Krishna. So Arjuna was a great personality, a great personality. And now what is Arjuna's condition? So Arjuna, when he sees his relatives fight, ready to fight with him, what happens to him is, Arjuna, this is Arjuna's condition. So Arjuna tells to Krishna that, Krishna, my limbs are quivering, my mouth is drying up, my body is trembling, my hair is standing on the head, my bow is slipping from the hands, my skin is burning, I'm unable to stand, I'm forgetting myself, my mind is reeling, I'm frustrated, fearful, anxious, depressed, and hopeless. And Arjuna starts giving all these um, he starts giving all these excuses not to fight. So he starts that, Krishna, it's not better, it's better I run away from here, it's better I go start begging, rather than targeting my spiritual, my teachers, my grandfather, my cousins. What will be the use of winning this war? Everybody is going to die, so the kingdom that I get will be tainted with blood. How am I going to even enjoy the riches? Because the entire, all my family will be killed. So it's better that I give up, I run away, I beg and I sustain a living. I'm not able to fight, Krishna. I am not, I cannot fight against all these people. Even though they are aggressors, even though they are focused on material gain, then also I don't think it's a good idea to fight Krishna. And Arjuna gives up his bows. He sits down, just like how this girl is sitting down in the picture. Arjuna sits down and he gives up his bows and arrows, and he says, like, sorry, ye mujhse nahi hoega. I cannot fight. So, is this sounds familiar? Like, I think we all have gone through this kind of condition many times in our life. So in Gen Z language, if we say that Arjuna is having a panic attack, an anxiety attack. So every day in our lives, so Arjuna is on the battlefield. So Arjuna is a Kshatriya, right? Arjuna is a Kshatriya, so he's on the battlefield. We are all also in our own battlefields, So there's this very there's this very famous verse, not verse, a quote. Everybody is fighting a battle you don't know anything about, so be kind. So all of us are fighting a battle in our lives, right? Very similar to what Arjuna is facing, we all are facing in our different conditions of life. We may be students, we may be in office, we may be in our house, we may be teachers, whatever condition of life we may be, but these problems are there, right? So now Arjuna gave up all these reasons, and he gave up his bow and arrow and refused to fight. So now what did Krishna say to this? Krishna called him. So like I was explaining that what kind of a Kshatriya Arjun was, right? So Krishna was a cousin of Arjuna, and they were also very good friends. But over here, Krishna did not keep quiet or say, ha ha, okay, Arjuna, no problem, I understand. Krishna ने सीधा किया उसको, like छड़ी दिखाई. So Krishna told him that you are important. So saying something like important is a very big thing to a Kshatriya, because they are like, really chivalrous, and they are mighty, they have strength and macho and all that. And, usko Krishna is saying important. Like, so it was like, oh my God, like it shook up Arjuna. And then Krishna told him that all this is nothing but weakness of your heart. You are talking impure words, unbefitting words. All these actions will lead you to infamy. You will become infamous. Because Arjuna was a Kshatriya, so for him, his duty was to fight. Secondly, it was his duty to fight to protect the dharma. And what he was trying to do is he was trying to run away from that, right? And Arjuna was trying to speak like a learned man, like he was giving all these excuses of compassion and, detachment, that I don't want to enjoy the kingdom and all that, I don't want to, kill my teachers. They are worthy of my worship. They are worthy of my respect. But then ultimately he was mourning, he was grief stricken, he was crying, he was like, his mind was reeling, like mera sar ghum raha hai, like, like many times we are faced with that situation, mind doesn't work, you don't know what to do, you're just stuck in a situation. Dharm sankat bolte hain, like you don't know whether to do this or whether to do that. If you do this, something will happen. If you do that, something will happen. So Arjuna is in that state of mind, he is grief struck with grief, and he is in depression. So now one life lesson, we will pause here, and one life lesson that we will learn from here is that we need friends, teachers, and elders who show us the mirror. They may use harsh words or teach us harsh lessons, but it is for our own benefit. So it is important to recognize those people in our lives who are our actual well-wishers. And at that time, and in these times, sometimes we need people to show us the reality, to show us the mirror. If suppose you have done some mistake, then you should have some people to tell you that no, this is what you have done wrong, and this is what you should be doing. But nowadays what we do is, if somebody shows us the mirror, we show them, we start ghosting them. We will stop talking to them, we will block them, because they are not talking, they are not understanding us. In our language, they are not understanding what we are going through, and they will tell, you don't know what I am going through. So sometimes it is the weakness of the mind, it is nothing but the weakness of the mind, and we need these people in our lives to show us the reality and to take us from that state of weakness to an enlightened state, right? So when we have such people in life, value those people, value those teachers, because they are very, very important. They are more important than friends jo haan mein milayenge, that yeah, yes, 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 whatever you do, whatever you say, yes, yes, yes. So you will find lots of those people, but it is important to have at least one friend, one teacher, who shows us what's the right path. So moving ahead, we'll see now what was the effect of Krishna's chastisement. What effect does this have on Arjuna? So now Arjuna finally recognizes the problem. So Arjuna says in the verse, we read the translation, Arjuna says, I am confused about my duty, right? So step number one is acknowledging the problem, right? So the first step is to acknowledge the problem. Okay, what is the problem? So when you're facing the problem, you sit down and you try to understand what actually is the problem, because sometimes our problem is not exactly the correct problem. Sometimes the connected parts, we are more disturbed by the other side effects and other parts of the problem. Actually we don't recognize the real problem. you know and then Arjuna says, I have lost all composure because of my miserly weakness. So we need to recognize where my problem is coming from. So as long as Arjuna was talking on his personal sense gratification, so as long as Arjuna was, attached to his family, he was talking on the level of material relationships. Okay, my uncles, my cousins, my teacher, my guru, this, my kingdom, right? He was talking from that angle. So because he was talking from that angle, he was talking, it was seemingly, it appeared like, oh, it was very nice that he was so compassionate and detached. But then it was coming out of miserly weakness. As a dharma of a kshatriya, his duty was to fight, but actually he was running away from that, you know That was not his duty. So only when he recognized that, yes, this is my miserly weakness, then he surrendered, right? And then what he did is, in this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. So then next step is, after recognizing where the problem is coming from, the next step is to solve the problem, right? Now, solving the problem again has many steps, and it depends what procedure we follow for solving the problem, right? So here Arjuna surrenders to Krishna. He says, I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. So now here the relationship is changing between Arjuna and Krishna. So till now they were cousins and friends, but now the relationship has changed. Now the relationship is between a guru and a disciple. So Arjuna says, I am your disciple and I'm a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Right? So this is the changing verse of the Bhagavad Gita. So till now, when Arjuna was talking, till now Krishna did not speak. So now Krishna will speak, so the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita will start now, right? So Arjuna, what he did is he surrendered to a bona fide authority. All right. So now we'll move again step by step, acknowledging the problem. So now what is so great about these problems? Like problem, jab dekho problem, kabhi koi problem, kabhi koi problem. Problem ka ant hi nahi hai. Like one problem finishes, the other problem is waiting. So why is that? So Krishna tells that the material world, right? The material world is called Dukhalayam, okay? House of miseries, house of problems. So Dukh Alayam, okay? So Alayam means house, like just how we have Pustakalay, house of books, how we have Vidya Alay, house of education. So like that, the material world is called Dukh Alaya. What? Really? Dukhalaya means house of problems, and ashashvatam. Ashashvatam is temporary, right? So the nature of the material world is that there will be problems, right? So Prabhupada tells in the purport that this is a natural course. Perplexities are the natural course of life. So just like nobody lights up a fire in the forest, right? We heard of forest fires, like very recently we heard of a forest fire in Los Angeles, right? And this forest fire, nobody lights it up, it is just produced on its own by the friction of the branches. And then it burns up villages over villages and towns, and you cannot exhaust it, you know so problems are like that. Material world is like that. It's called samsara davanal. We sing samsara davanal naralida loka. So it's samsara davanal. Davanal is like a forest fire. So material world is like a forest fire, and problems come without us asking for it, right? So why? So Prabhupada also says that because we are in an unnatural state of existence, ये setting ही ठीक नहीं है. Like the setting itself is wrong, because we don't belong to this place. We belong to another place. Our nature is eternal. Our nature is free. Our nature is blissful. Okay. And we are here in this material world in Dukhalayam. This is not the place where we belong. Right. And no matter what the civilization, no matter what is the advancement, no matter how much we progress, there are going to be these four problems that will still be there. The four problems are birth, death, old age, and disease. So no matter how much science advances, we will still keep losing our relatives. We will lose our parents, our loved ones. We will see death. We will see old age. We will see disease. We are seeing all that, no matter how much science advances. There are three types of kleshas, those caused by other living entities, those caused by natural calamities, and those caused by one's own mind, right? So these three types of kleshas are always going to be there. Everything will be fine, and suddenly, we'll wake up to the news of an earthquake, tsunami, right? And then suddenly you'll be sitting and one mosquito will come and bite you, and boof, you have malaria, dengue, right? And if nothing else, then our mind is enough. Mind ही काफी है problem देने के लिए. My mind is not. We all know what the mind does and how the mind ruins the best of the moments. How the mind can ruin the best of the moments, right? So these problems are going to be there. अभी क्या करें इन problems का? Problems तो है, right? The problems are going to be there. But the important point is our attitude towards the problem, right? So we learn one life lesson here, and that is problems are natural. Some people will have physical problems, some will have financial problems, some will have mental problems, emotional relationships. Okay, everybody is going through some problem or the other. In your words, Gen Z, everyone is fighting a battle that nobody knows about, right? But what is important is our attitude towards the problem. Okay, so moving ahead, now what did Arjuna do um, in this situation? What did Arjuna do? So Arjuna set the perfect example. So now we can pause for a moment and we can reflect that when we were faced with such a problem in our life, what did we do? So there are different things that we could have done. And like nowadays, if we see, the most like if somebody is going through a problem, they'll say, give me some space, I need to heal. And then sometimes people go into their own shell. They stop talking to their friends, they stop talking to their teachers, they start ghosting, they go into their own shell, they disconnect with people. Sometimes people will shut themselves down in dark rooms, not come out of their rooms. And a little better way people would deal with their problems is, get hold of some motivational speaker, get hold of some motivational books. you know and they call it as healing. But here we see that Arjuna has set the example. Okay, now what Arjuna did was Arjuna surrendered to the perfect authority, and that perfect authority was Krishna. Arjuna surrendered. So now let us take a moment to realize that there was no time. Yeah, people were standing ready to fight. There was 11 Akshoni Senas on the side of the Kauravas and 7 Akshoni Senas. So Akshoni is a term in Vedic military science, where Akshoni Sena means, you will be really surprised. Akshoni has around, so one Akshoni Sena has around 25,000 chariots, 25,000 plus elephants, 65,000 horses, and 1 lakh foot soldiers. So that is the strength of one Akshoni Sena. The Kauravas had 11 multiplied into 11, and the Pandavas had 7. So that many people were waiting to fight. And here Arjuna is surrendering to Krishna. हम बोलते हैं यार time नहीं है यार, like what you're talking about Bhagavad Gita, what you're talking about attending classes, I don't have time to breathe. सांस लेने की फुर्सत नहीं है, तुम ये क्या बोल रहे हो, क्लास में आओ. Like over there, millions of people were waiting to fight a battle, but Arjuna paused. And Arjuna surrendered to the perfect authority, right? So we also can take that pause. We saw problems are going to keep coming. There's not going to be any end. It's not that ye problem khatam ho jayega and then live happily ever after. That is not there, right? So what we have to do is, in the midst of that problems, we have to change our attitude. So do I have that option that Arjuna has? Arjuna surrendered to Krishna. Chalo, Krishna wahan tha present. But do I have that option? Yes, of course. I also have that option. So Arjuna actually played the role of us. So keeping us people in mind, he actually demonstrated that how one should surrender to the perfect authority. And because of Arjuna, we got a gem called Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna's words are there, right? A bona fide parampara is there. Okay, I have Guru, I have Sadhu, and I have Shastra. Okay, but mind you, they should be bona fide, right? So we can catch hold of any motivational speaker, some motivational books, but not necessary that they will give us a solution. So the solution to life's problems are a solution to life's problem lies in surrendering to the perfect authority, right? Perfect authority is Krishna. So let us take a moment to reflect. Is my situation more urgent than Arjuna's situation? Like, क्या आग लगे जा रही है? Like, am I fighting a battle? Am I also running away from my problems in the name of healing, etc.? Am I succumbing to the problems of my life? And do I recognize my well wishers? Right? So let's take a moment and reflect that when I had these problems in my life, what did I do? Right? So now, how should surrender be? Okay. Arjuna surrendered. Arjuna surrendered, but how was Arjuna's surrender? So sometimes we may also surrender, but then we have our own ways. We will challenge. We will say, I don't believe in this. What is this? This is some old school philosophy. 500 years ago Krishna spoke. What, this applies to me or what? Right? So same thing Arjuna was also facing. This knowledge of Bhagavad Gita was given before to the sun god, right? So it had lost its in the process. I mean, in the time, due to time, it had lost its purity, and that's why it had become non-accessible, right? So Arjuna did not tell Krishna that, because that's what Krishna tells Arjuna in the fourth chapter, that before speaking to you I had spoken this knowledge to sun god many years ago. So Arjuna did not challenge that, how you're telling me the same knowledge, how does it apply to me now my problem is different, that time sun god was not fighting a battle, you tell me what is applicable now. This is what not Arjuna did. Arjuna surrendered. Arjuna was submissive. Arjuna was devoted, and Arjuna was non-challenging, right? And Arjuna received the knowledge with a receptive heart, right? And Krishna mentions this point many times in the Bhagavad Gita, that Arjuna, I am telling you this confidential knowledge because you are my devotee and you are my friend, right? So we may have access to Bhagavad Gita, right? But we may not understand its essence unless we have a submissive and devotional, submissive, and non challenging attitude. So, even though the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is there in front of us, but we need to have a proper attitude, and we also need to have a proper acharya to decode these verses and to explain to us the essence. So, Srila Prabhupada, we are very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada has commented on Bhagavad Gita and given us bhaktified essence of Krishna's words. So we can still read, but if we don't have these qualities of submission and devotion, we will not be able to understand the essence. So the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita can apply, and no matter what field you are in. I told you that Arjuna was a Kshatriya, he was on the battlefield, right? But it does not matter where we are. We may be mothers, we may be daughters, we may be sisters, we may be teachers, we may be in the IT corporate, we may be chefs, we may be cooks, we may be managers. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It does not matter whether you're a male or a female. It doesn't matter what age you are. But if you surrender to the knowledge that Krishna has given in the Bhagavad Gita, and if you surrender to an authority like Prabhupada, then in any point of life, you can find light to your problems in the proper perspective, in a perspective. So problems wahi rahenge, problems will remain, but our attitude towards those problems will change. We will have more strength and we will be more prepared, you know to face those problems. So just one example I'll give you, like, uh, when you are walking on the roads, like, you see big buildings in front of you, right? You have to put your head up high like that to see big buildings, but when you sit in a plane, and when the plane starts to go up, the slowly the plane starts to go up, all those buildings become minute, so when you rise up, suddenly everything becomes small. All these skyscrapers, all these big buildings, everything becomes so tiny. So when, if you have traveled by flight, and if you're above on a on a particular altitude, you will see everything is so tiny, like dots. Big buildings are like dots. The whole city is like a dot. you know so when you rise up, all these problems, the buildings are the same, the city is the same, the town is the same, but because you have risen up from where you are, those have started to appear small. So similarly, our problems will remain, but because through the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, we have risen up, we have risen up from that plane of that material, misery of the mind, the weakness of the mind. We rise up from that through the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. Then all these problems, although they exist, but they become very insignificant, they become very small. जैसे छोटा सा रोना है, क्या चलता रहता है, ये सब चलता रहता है, like this will keep happening. You will get a more Krishna conscious perspective towards leading your life, right? So the life lesson, one important life lesson that we learn from here is, when Arjuna stopped speaking, Krishna started speaking. So when the disciple stops talking, the guru will start talking, right? So we need to silence the chatter of the mind to hear what Guru and Krishna are talking. हम लोग अपने में ही पड़े रहते हैं, like we are going on with our own, you know our own outlook towards life, our mind, like there's a constant battle that the mind is fighting with, right? So that chatter of the mind needs to slow down, and when we slow down, and then when we surrender, then we can hear what Krishna is talking, then we can hear what the guru is talking. As long as I am trying to know that I know something, then the guru does not speak, Krishna does not speak. Okay, or even if the Bhagavad Gita is there in front of me, I will not understand it. So when I stop speaking, when I slow down, when I pause, take a pause, shh, and then I can hear my teachers, then I can hear my guru, and then I can hear Krishna. I can hear them through, I said, guru, sadhu, and shastra. So they have to be bona fide. Okay. It's like, what is the meaning of bona fide? Bona fide means that they should be authorized. Somebody should be authorized, right? So now, if you have a problem, if you have a disease, है ना? If you have some issue, right? The worst thing is to ask Google. Google is not authorized to solve your diseases, right? You have to go, if you have a fracture, will you ask Google what to do? No, no, you have to go to an orthopedician if you have a fracture, right? If you are hungry and you want to order a dosa, you won't go to an electronic shop, no, to order a dosa, right? You will have to go to a restaurant which sells dosa, right? So that place needs to be authorized, right? You need to have an authorized source which can give you that knowledge, right? So we have heard news now that people go and you know what do you call those doctors which don't have a license and they practice, and then people go quacks, call them quacks. So people will go, and then sometimes people die because they don't have license to practice that. Similarly, when we go to solve our problem, we should go to a bona fide parampara, we should go to a bona fide authority. So this is what I wanted to speak. I will stop here, and in case anybody has any questions or any comments, or anybody would like to share their realizations, or anybody would like to share any incident that had happened, and they were feeling something similar to Arjuna, and what they did in that time? Anything that inspires you? Would anybody like to share? Or if anybody has any questions? We have about 12 minutes more. If you have any questions, please raise your hand.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam. This is Megha.
Yes, Megha, Danvat Pranams.
Mataji, so we learned that we have to surrender to Krishna to get our solutions. We should not, we should completely surrender. But at times we have so many options, so many solutions available everywhere. Like we don't really remember Krishna at that time. When we are in a problem, there are people or something, we have hundreds of solutions, so we tend to trust and believe. So what to do in that case to not get misguided, and we make sure we are surrendered?
Well, you need to make the choice. We all have free will. The jivas have, the living entities have free will. They have minute independence. So we have that free will. So we need to decide what is best for me. And I think in our course of life, like, we all have had many experiences where different taking help from different sources, and what kind of help we got from there, whether it was temporary or whether it was actually helpful in the real essence. So you have access to a lot of good resources. You have access to Bhagavad Gita, you have access to mentors, you have access to friends. So all our problems can, like I told you that example about when you rise up, these problems become insignificant. Sometimes we see that, like right now I may have a problem, and it may appear to be just consuming my life, but the same thing we see that after a few months we've forgotten about it, you know so these are very irrelevant, and they are very insignificant if we actually compare our life on the scale of eternity. you know so right now, when it is in front of you, it looks big. So you have access, you have that independence, you have that free will to actually choose that from which source you need help. So you need to have faith in this process. So like Krishna says that you need to have faith in this process, and when you have faith, only then you will come to this source.
Okay, Mataji, thank you.
That answers your question.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes,
Hare,
Magesh.
Hare Krishna, ma'am.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Ma'am, I have a question. Like we know we have to do some spiritual things to know Krishna, and to be with him, and to after life we have to go to him and everything. But what is the purpose of the life, ma'am? What for what reason Krishna has given this, and what to expect from this life Krishna has given, like how to survive in this situation, ma'am. As we know, like we can't expect anything from this materialistic world, but what is the real reason Krishna could have given this life? What should we really expect, and what should not be really expect, ma'am?
So, Mageshwari, Thank you for your
Yes, ma'am.
question. So we are here in this material world because of our own desires. So it is not that Krishna has put us here, and but it is because we have desired to enjoy, and because we have desired this particular life, we have got it. You know, so this is not the first life. We have lived millions and millions of life before this, right? And also based on what I desire now, I am shaping the foundation of my next life, right? So this life, I mean, we actually don't belong to the material world. We actually are a part and parcel of Krishna, right? And we have a place in Krishna's abode, that is our eternal home. So we are actually servants, we are eternal servants of the Lord. Jivera Swarupa Hoye Krishnera Nitya Das. So that is our identity, that is our nature. Just like how the nature of the salt is to make something salty, you know, if you put salt in rasgulla and you say that, "Arey, ye to meetha hi nahi hai, this is not sweet," it not be sweet, no, because you have put salt. So the nature of salt is that it will make something salty. The nature of sugar is that it will make something sweet. If you put sugar in dal and you say, today it's not nice, it's very sweet, yeah, because you've put sugar. That is the nature of sugar, to make something sweet. The nature of the green chili is that it will be hot. So similarly, our nature is that we are eternal servants of Krishna. And because we are not serving Krishna, and because we are serving everything else, so our nature is serving. So if we are not serving Krishna, we will automatically start serving everything else, right? We may be serving different things. We may be serving our bosses, our friends, our juniors, our colleagues, serving our own senses, our own mind, right? So because we are utilizing our energy in doing what is actually not my nature, I'm frustrated. So that's what Prabhupada says, that this setting is unnatural. So okay, somehow or the other we have come into this material world. We have come, like, we cannot trace how long, when we came, when I came, when I started. We cannot trace all that. But now I have come here. Now I have got hold of this opportunity. Now somehow, through the mercy of some devotee, Krishna is talking to me, and Krishna is telling me that, listen, come back here. So to come back, to go back to Goloka, to go back to the place where I belong. So we don't know the process, right? So now if you want to do PhD, you just cannot randomly start studying something on Google. You need to have a process. You need to go to an institute which is actually teaching you PhD, right? So similarly, if I want to go back to my eternal home, to nature, I need to take help of someone that knows how to do it, right? So I need a bona fide authority. So our acharyas very mercifully, keeping in mind our present condition. Okay, our present condition is Kali Yuga, short life. It is very short life. There is very less time. Okay, and then no focus, no memory, always distracted. Okay, so keeping in mind all these things, our acharyas have uh, outlined a process. So actually there is natural love for Krishna that is there in our hearts, but because we have been disconnected from him from so long, right? So that is subdued, that is now in sleeping state, right? So to awaken that love, just like how a small son gets lost in one circus, in one fair, a small son will get lost and somebody else will raise him up, and then the son grows, and the dad is a millionaire and he says, listen, I'm your father, come back. So the son will doubt, like, no, you are not my father, because when he was small, he was separated from him, so he has no memory that you're my father. So similarly, we have no memory about our eternal life. It is all, I don't know how many births we have taken. It's all subdued. It's all contaminated, layers and layers and layers of desires. I want to do this, I want to do this, I wish I got this, I wish I got this. So how many lives we have lived? So everything is subdued. So our acharyas have outlined that process, a regulated activity that will slowly take us to the platform of loving Krishna naturally. And then when we practice devotion, and then we can go back to our eternal lives. Hope that answered your question. Mageshwari, hope that answered your question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone would like to share anything else?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Shobita.
Thank you for the wonderful class. I really loved it. And in terms of like my key takeaways was that how this material world is actually Dukhalaya and like the house of miseries, and how you made it like you reminded us that our nature is eternal and blissful. So I really like that. And in terms of like I also like the fact how you like put it in short form, that the key attitudes of Arjuna on how he surrendered to Krishna, like he was submissive, devoted, and like he was non-challenging. And also like you also made the class very relatable in terms of like linking it with the Gen Z lingo, like the world, like everyone is going through a battle, but we should be kind to, so we should keep that in mind and be kind to others. So I really like that. And so I just wanted to share my own experience, like in terms of like when I was going through, when I was at crossroads for my career. So I was like really chanting and praying and how I should overcome this. So I think this was one of the verses that I was like very much inclined towards. So thank you for taking this class. Thank you.
Thank you. This verse teaches us how we should pray. So
Yes.
this verse teaches us that what our attitude should be and how we should pray to the Lord. And yeah, it's a very, very important verse. And we can all learn this verse actually. And it'll be very nice. And also, if you could all share, maybe on the group, if you could all share, I don't know, we can ask the organizers if that option is there. If everybody can share their key learnings or takeaways for each class, then it would be nice to know that actually what you have understood as the essence of the class. If that is possible, we can request the organizers to do that. So yeah, thank you very much. And it was lovely being with all of you. And thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Vrajbhumi Mataji, for the wonderful session. Yeah, all of you can share your lessons, what you learned in today's session in the group. So thank you all for joining. Thank you. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha padithanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo. Hare Krishna.